Do have your questions ready. We have a chat window and you can throw your questions and we'll try to get to as many as we can. So with that, I am going to introduce our moderator, Jason Oliver. Jason is a longtime friend of NAMC, a longtime supporter right from the early days. So I thank you, Jason, for taking out this time and helping us assemble this wonderful group of individuals. I will read his bio so you guys get to know a little bit about Jason. So Jason works in collaboration with an array of community organizations to advocate for Black communities, expand the practice of transformative justice, and improve education policy. He develops relationships among Houston artists, activists, technologists, and academics in order to bring about community-led change. Jason supports the work of Impact Hub Houston, and as a member of its launch team, he supports their efforts to build an inclusive, innovative ecosystem in Houston. He also co-chairs the HCEDD Tech Entrepreneurship Work Group, and they work to create a transparent process for community involvement in both the Houston Ion and the Rice Innovation District. Jason is a Detroit native and an alumnus of Yale University School of Engineering and Applied Science. So join me in welcoming Jason, and I'll turn it over to you, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you, Nkechi. It's good to be here, and I'm really excited. As you mentioned, I'm a longtime fan of NAMC and also a longtime fan of all the people here on stage with me. So I've been familiar with literally everybody here for years, literal years. So it's really exciting to have this conversation. The innovation ecosystem is a place where there's a lot of room for opportunity, a lot of room for growth, and we need more of us involved in this startup and entrepreneurship space. So I'm gonna go through and read the bios of the panelists that we have. So I'll start off with Rahel Abraham with ClimateGuard. I'm actually going to share in the chat as I'm going through. So I'm gonna try and do double duty. I'm gonna share each person's website as I'm going through. So Rahel Abraham is an experienced engineer and emerging entrepreneur. She founded the startup ClimateGuard after losing her car to Hurricane Harvey flooding in 2017. ClimateGuard's signature product is a military-grade reusable enclosure designed to protect vehicles and other valuable items from flood damage. She is proud to be one of the country's rising entrepreneurs, building a brand as a way to tackle long-standing disparities and increase the representation of women of color among America's changemakers and leaders. ClimateGuard was officially introduced in Houston in August 2020 and has been recently featured in an array of different news publications. So I'm really excited and glad to have Rahel. Thank you for being here. Next up, Dr. Douglas Franklin with DeckLaunch. Dr. Douglas Franklin is the CEO of DeckLaunch, a company dedicated to helping entrepreneurs and startups validate their business strategies to scale and seek investment. I hope you all are listening. Like, think about the questions that you have and please start sending them in the chat as well, because we want to make sure that this is interactive and engaging. And we want to make sure that we're speaking to the needs of y'all. Like we know what we know, but we don't know what y'all are here for, right? So please, we need your input and support there. Dr. Franklin also serves as COO of Fresh Tech Solutions and teaches methods courses at the University of St. Thomas. When Dr. Franklin is not working with startups, he enjoys writing and video games with his teenage son, Aaron. It's just wild to hear teenage son, Aaron. Like literally when I first met Doug, his son was tiny. So.
You've known me for way too long, that's the problem.
Yep. So yeah, it's just wild to kind of read that and think back. And he wasn't Dr. Franklin back then either. So yeah, exciting changes. Shanette Prince with Africa on My Back. Shanette Prince is the founder of Africa on My Back, which is a socially conscious fashion brand that sells unique, handcrafted African-inspired backpacks, bags, and accessories, including face masks. So If you need some nice fashionable face masks, right? The CDC is telling you to double up with Africa on My Back, right? So Africa on My Back supports study abroad opportunities for brilliant Black boys and small businesses in Ghana. Shanette believes that when you give people opportunities and access to resources that will control their destinies, dream big, and achieve their dreams. She is the mother of 2 brilliant Black boys and a graduate of TSU and Florida A&M University. She has 2 boys, Cameron and Isaiah, and we were talking about them before we got on here. Next up, Philip Yates. Philip Yates is a licensed attorney in the state of Texas and the Southern District of the United States. He currently represents 25 corporations as outside general counsel, sits on the board for several nonprofit organizations, and serves as general counsel for the Business Angel Minority Association and is chairman of Impact Hub Houston. Philip Yates is also a co-founder and managing director of Diversity Fund Houston, which I just provided the link for in the chat, a micro venture fund created to invest in Black and brown tech founders during the Friends and Family Round, which if you don't know what the Friends and Family Round is, throw it in the chat, ask us a question. That's absolutely something we can talk about. Make sure that if you're hearing different startup terms, let us know so we can make sure, because just like any other field, we hear oil and gas all the time, right? There's gonna be jargon. Thank you, Yvonne. Yeah, if there's jargon that you're not familiar with, please ask us in the chat. So prior to founding Diversity Fund Houston, Philip helped establish a pre-venture business incubator for minorities at the Houston Area Urban League. In 2019, Philip launched Equilibrity Inc., a technology platform that teaches creators how to use their talents to develop and grow business inside their community. Philip credits his success and personal growth to his wife, Chelsea, of almost 5 years, come this November. In his own words, she makes all this possible. Philip is also the father of 2 wonderful children, Harper and PJ. So we've got some really exciting people here. We're gonna talk about the Friends and Family Round in a moment, but I wanna start off and I'll take it to Dr. Franklin, to Doug, and I'll have him explain what is a startup, and then is there a difference between a small business and a startup? Uh-oh, you're muted.
Oh no, I'm muted and I continue to talk. But thank you for that question, because that question is something that we talk about all of the time. And so people hear a whole bunch of different terms when you're talking about people who are starting businesses. You have startup, you have entrepreneur, you have small business owner. Think about it in 2 different ways. If you're a startup, you're trying to launch your business with as much money as you can, as quickly as possible. So this is where you're really looking for investments. You're looking for people to do, as I see questions in our chat, Friends and Family Rounds, which we could talk about a little bit later. But like, you're trying to find as much money as you possibly can to get this idea from 0 to 100 as fast as you can, real quick, as Drake says. If you're a small business, you're looking for the consistent returns. So you have an idea, it's solid, and you're not trying to sprint. It is a marathon with small businesses. Startups, it is a marathon, but at the beginning you do have to sprint compared to just working in a small business. And this is where you can utilize a lot of the knowledge that you have for businesses, your SWOT analysis, the things of the world, and then take your time to build your business out. But that is the thing. If you're talking about a startup, fast, very quick. If you're talking about a small business, or if you just want to be a general entrepreneur, you have opportunity to slow down. Hopefully I caught everything. And if there's anything you want to push into, let's talk about it, Jason.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to shift it over to Philip, because as somebody who has worked with the Houston Area Urban League to do courses on entrepreneurship for years, I think it'll be really beneficial for you to talk about that. And if you can talk about like financing requirements as well and loop that in.
Yeah, no, Jason, and thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the opportunity. Also to Nkechi and all the work you guys did to put this awesome panel together. I'm excited. And to your question, yes, I have been fortunate to work over at the Urban League for over a decade now, with Judson and Eric Goody and the rest of the Entrepreneurship Center and entrepreneurship community, including the ones we have on here. Everybody on here has served as a mentor, advisor, or as a friend to up and coming entrepreneurs. And in that space, I'll tell you, when you're trying to start a business, you're trying to look for a community that you can attach yourself to at the very beginning, because you don't want to go at it alone. And that's how, Jason, how I got involved in it. I was an insurance agent. I had my own franchise early on in my life, like 25 or something. And I finished up grad school, and I thought I knew everything. I had these books, I had this idea, and I wanted to make money, and I opened up a business, and I did some things well, but I tried to do it by myself, and ultimately it failed. And I had to transition on to my next opportunity. So going into the Urban League, I was able to just take those pains and then help them create this program so that people don't have to go at it alone in this progress, especially at that space. And so what we concentrate on is people in the idea phase, pre-venture. And so that's important when you're talking about capital, because you're going to be at different phases when you're looking at different capital. And so at the very beginning, like we talked about friends and family round, whether you're a startup or you're a traditional small business or a general entrepreneur, before you even get there, you have to get that idea out of your head. I mean, that's what we're here today, because there's a lot of dreamers, including myself, that continues to have dreams. And when you go to a place like the Urban League, it allows you to conceptualize that, get assistance that you need from business advisors, put into a format, whether it's a business model canvas or a deck, and you're working with people like Dr. Franklin. But essentially it gets the footing up under you, and so that you can take that next step. And then from there, you're looking for financing. And so you're not going to be able to go to your Wells Fargo, your Chase Bank, or your Bank of America that early in entrepreneurship. And it's really wise that you understand that, because as you're pitching your business, you want to pitch to the right audience and the people who have the appetite to either take the risk because your startup is going to grow very fast and they see the potentials, or somebody who supports you because they say, you know what, this is going to be a good steward, like, Ms. Prince is. So, you got Rahel, who's going to grow very fast, and she has a high growth company. Ms. Prince, who also has a company that's growing very fast, but she's also could be looked at as some of the product, and she may be a small business owner, where they say she's a good steward of her resources, and they may invest based on her product and being able to collateralize off of that. And so all that information is important when you get early pre-venture education, whether it's like Small Business University, the Urban League, or you go to U of H Shore program, or you go to the Impact Hub, where we now have multiple accelerators for women, and it's about diversity and inclusion, and get you mentors and advisors. Now you have the ION coming online, where you can go to some of their programs, all free. That's what get free resources. I can't stress it enough, Jason, that if you're going through this process, try not to spend money at the very beginning. Try to get as much free advice as possible. And always keep in mind that you have to raise capital, and then who you're trying to raise capital from. I don't want to muddy it up too much, but I'll stop there, just letting you know that as a startup, you're going through a pre-venture phase where you don't have a lot of assets, where people can say, you know what, I can use that as collateral to give you a secured agreement. And so because of that, you have to find a way to collateralize or build the credit so that somebody will invest into your concept or your business.
Yep.
Thank you, Phil.
One of the things.
Hold on, Doug.
Okay.
So I want to kind of pause there, because that was to give the audience just a taste, just to kind of set the stage and frame this conversation. We're talking about both startups and small businesses, and now that you have an idea of what it is that we're talking about, we've given you a little bit of definitions and started talking about the ecosystem. I want to take it back to our panelists and go through, and we're going to have the panelists actually share about their background, and then just some brief commentary about their take on the state of entrepreneurship and doing business in Houston. So we're going to go through, and then they'll each briefly talk about it. And I want you all, as you're kind of thinking about these questions, to listen for what are the ways that that they might be able to speak to these questions that you're asking, and I'll be following those, especially in the Q&A. That makes things a little bit easier. whether you put them in the chat or the Q&A. I'll be following them as we go through. So let's start with Shanette. And you're muted. There you go.
There you go.
So Jason, I'm sorry, what is the question? Because I'm looking at these questions. What is
Right. No, so you're just gonna talk about, we're gonna go through each panelist to talk about your background, and then short commentary about, entrepreneurship in Houston.
Yeah, okay, so I got it. I can talk about me. I'm Shanette, founded Africa on My Back in 2016 after a life-changing trip to Ghana, West Africa. It was my first time going to the motherland, and I fell in love with the people, with the culture, with the food, textiles, just everything. And I fell in love so much that 6 months later, I took my then 14-year-old and saw how empowered he was, and just the pride that he had while he was there. He was striving to learn the language. I mean, there was no food that was off limits to him. He was fully invested in the trip. And having worked in fundraising for several years, and I was working here at a charter school in Houston, I wanted to make sure that my son and his friends had an opportunity to feel that pride and empowerment. And that was really the catalyst for Africa on My Back. I saw the parallels between the artisans that are in Ghana and how, brilliant people, innovative, similar to African Americans here, brilliant people, they just need opportunity and access. And so that's what I wanted to provide, was this opportunity and access for the artisans to, grow their platforms, and for brilliant Black boys to travel abroad. And that's what we did. That's how we got started. That's the drive behind what I do. We took our first trip. We took our first cohort of boys in March. So right as the pandemic was getting started, we were going to Ghana with 14 people, 7 of them being students. Entrepreneurship wasn't anything that I had thought about doing. I mean, I was working in fundraising at the charter school and just took my vacation. I wanted to go home to the motherland. And while I was there, I met a brother who had repatriated to the continent. And he was telling me, there's so much opportunity here. There's so many resources, you could start any type of business here. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. Again, I'm here for the experience. I wasn't there to talk business. But as, the trip turned out, I said, what opportunities? And I thought about the backpacks and all of the back to school events that happen. And to me, it was like, wouldn't it be cool to see all of these Black children in HISD and Spring and Ailey walking around with African print backpacks? Like, I could see it as clear as day. And I knew that I needed to start Africa on My Back. So Africa on My Back is not only you wearing the backpack, right? That's something tangible, but it's you always thinking about, how can I further the cause of Black people? How can I further the cause of the African continent? And how can I be a good steward over the resources that my ancestors have left with me? So the backpack itself is just, it's just that catalyst. It's just the thing. Once you find out, more and more about what we do, then you're a customer for life, because you understand that it's not just about the backpack, the earrings, the face masks, all of those things that we have. It's really, how can I connect with people who look like me that are all over the globe? How can I make sure that the next group of Black children don't have to wait until they're 35 to travel to Ghana like I did? My son was 14 the first time he went. I've had the privilege of taking my now 13-year-old. He was 12 when he went. When we went in March, we had a 7-year-old on the trip with us, and I'm just, it gives me chills. We were standing in the slave dungeons, and we had, done some history lessons before we went, but the kids were so invested, like, wow, this is where my ancestors came from. This is where they stole them from. And so to see that, I was like, okay, whatever I got to do, whatever Africa on My Back has to do to stay afloat, so that we can make sure that, these kids get this opportunity to travel abroad, to reconnect with their heritage, just to get, their Ghanaian name. They had their little certificates and they were proud, they were proud of those names. So that's Africa on my back. It's more than a backpack, is what I tell people. And I can talk about it all day long because I'm really invested in Black people. This panel is about Black people and African people. And so anything that I can do to further the cause, to make sure that we are winning, all of us are winning, I'm down for it. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Shanette. Thank you, Shanette. And I think that's an especially great place to start as we're thinking about, as we're here with NAMC and the NAMC community, right? Thinking about this life-changing experience that you had in West Africa, just a couple countries down the coast. It's really exciting to think about what further opportunities we have. I'm gonna go to Dr. Franklin next to do your introduction.
So thank you very much, Jason. So I'm going to give you guys I'm going to try to be as efficient as possible. But I am New Jersey born, Houston raised, her brother, and that just really loves working with the community and trying to help people out. And so I'm a FAMU undergrad, very proud FAMUan. There's many of us here in the city. Look, Shanette's over here with me too. So like we're here and we're always here. You guys will never get rid of FAMUans wherever you go. I worked in corporate in operations and management for ExxonMobil for a couple of years, and then came back home to get my MBA at Rice. And when I was getting my MBA at Rice, I worked with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of organizations that were looking out for the best interest of people that look like us. So like I spent most of my time with Greater Black Houston Chamber of Commerce, which at that point, if I'm going to date myself, was Houston Citizens Chamber of Commerce. And then I additionally worked with, Black MBA. I worked with the Buffalo Soldiers Museum, which has the most amazing Black market now. When it used to be at the small spot. And when I thought I was going to go back to corporate, I ended up working for my doctorate, which I finished over at St. Thomas, over the School of Ethical in the School of Education, Doctor of Ethical Leadership. That's where I teach, but where I spend my time is with people that look like us. That's where I spend all my time. So Monday through Saturday, I am a consultant for startups and entrepreneurs, trying to figure out the best way to either help them boost their ideas, shift their strategies, or find people who are going to invest in them. Because I believe in businesses where their founders look like us. I just fully 100% do it. I'm pretty sure that Philip is either I'm calling Philip or Philip's calling me, because I'm always looking for people that look like us to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for them. Outside of that, it's exactly what it sounds like with my bio. If I'm not helping out the community, I actually am pretty much with my 14-year-old playing video games. But it's like we are literally all we got. And I'm happy to help our community continue to grow as much as I want all startups to grow that have unbelievable ideas. There's nothing better in this world for me to see people of color, most importantly, Black people, wherever the background is, to just blow up and live their best life. That's what I want to do. And it's what I continue to do with my aim for my business.
Yeah, thank you. So let's go to Philip. If you want to give your introduction and kind of talk about the current state of entrepreneurship in Houston.
All right. Again, Philip Yates. And yeah, you said everything in the bio. I will tell you that, yeah, I am an attorney by day. For the longest, I always called myself like a social worker. by heart, because a lot of my work and how I cut my teeth on the community, I consider social work, or just something I would probably do for free. And I think that resonates with everybody on this panel, including our moderator, that we've all built a career on just wanting to help people and see people grow. And that's honestly how I built my career. For my law practice, that's what I do. I help people start their business, grow their businesses, and even we have a niche at our practice where we do bankruptcy, where we try to help people protect their wealth or transition from bad situations. And so that's my day job, but I'm also proud of the organizations that I spend my time with volunteering. And so Impact Hub's one of them, which is an organization that was launched two years ago, right, Jason? We launched 2 years ago, and Jason was a part of the launch team. It's led by Grace and Michelle. If you don't know, please research it, because there's a lot of resources that are coming online to give you different incubators, accelerators, and connect you to the ecosystem by way of Impact Hub Houston. Also, I mentioned the Houston Area Urban League, Diversity Fund Houston. We talked about that in terms of those who are technology or high growth businesses. You're in the startup world. One of the things I'll tell you, Jason, because like I said, I mean, my job has always been just to try to solve problems, you know, whether it's as a lawyer or at the work I do with the Urban League. Over time, people started coming to me about the issues they're having about raising capital. And so some of the people who went through that program that we have over there, we came up with this bright idea that we would start a venture capital fund. And it's a micro venture capital fund, first time fund managers. And we assembled a board of people that were like-minded and also wanted to solve that problem successfully. Now we are raising capital. And I never thought I would be in the rooms that I'm in or having the conversations I'm having and going through this process. But that's what it's all about when you're starting a business. I think you're trying to solve a problem. And so if I don't say anything else throughout for the rest of this evening, or if you don't take anything, you should be trying to solve some problems, because that's how you stay in business. That's how you remain profitable. If you're the solution to somebody else's problem. So I'll stop there. I know there's going to be some more direct questions, but that's me in a nutshell. And I'll make sure I have my information in the chat so that if we ever need to connect, whether it's on the legal side or in the incubator space or even on the venture capital space, I would love to assist you in your growth.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. And I'm seeing questions coming in. Please keep the questions coming. I'm definitely reading them and thinking about how to incorporate them into the questions. I see Shanette is answering some live, so she is on it. I see one question about incubator versus accelerator. That is absolutely something that we'll be able to talk about. And actually, I think that's a good place. I don't mean you need to answer this, Rahel, but I want you to go through your introduction and kind of talk about the state of the entrepreneurship and startup space in Houston.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And thank you again for inviting me to this panel. I'm really honored to be here. I also, before I even started a startup, I was always curious, like many of you all, and I did the Houston Urban League with Philip Yates. He was my, teacher, I guess is what you'd call her, an instructor. And so my girlfriend and I did it together after work. We were both engineers, and we would go after work and we'd just be sitting there like looking at people dreaming to be one day business owners, but we had no idea what type of business we wanted. We just knew that we wanted to be there. And so you all are doing, the first step in the right direction by coming to a panel like this, and just, you don't even have to have your idea formulated. Just, sit curious, and eventually, aha moment will come where you want to take that next leap of faith, and you'll know where to go. So this is awesome. But my journey, like Jason said, it came about, I was working as a project engineer for an oil and gas company. That's been my career. My background's chemical and environmental engineering. I had my bachelor's and master's, and that's all I did for all of my 20s. It's the point where I was just so unfulfilled. I could never go into a room and say, I want this, position later on in the company, because I knew I wasn't living my purpose. And that's why I'd always look elsewhere. And so I actually was planning on quitting my job right around the time that I got flooded. And I was planning on leaving to go to renewables and just trying a new venture. I've always been interested in renewables and industrial hemp, so I was going to move to the West Coast. And then once I got flooded, I it was like a series of events because it was Irma and Maria afterwards. And it was just, we were just bombarded with so much, hardship in very similar communities. And the outcomes were always the same. It's like you have to rely on your neighbors building back up. There was loads of what was once, a precious belonging, an investment, whatever you time spent earned assets like left out in the front of the homes, and they were disposed of and discarded just overnight. And then the rebuild was just, long-winded. And then here we go again with the next season. And so I just felt very much like this helplessness, knowing that it could happen at any time again. And this was my community. And my neighbors were losing their, source of income because their car, or maybe one of my neighbors was an artist, so she lost her canvas work. And it was just, those things were heavy on my heart. And since I left my job, and I had my car paid off when I lost it, by the way. So I was like, okay, I quit my job and I had a paid off car that was completely totaled. So I was just like, I'm not gonna let this happen again to me. And then at the same time, I thought to myself, Rahel, you have the time and you're an engineer, like you could do this, And so I also would love to tell you all that hey, I just started this journey, but I'm a big believer in following the path that fits your vision. And so people can go the route of bootstrapping or getting investors right away. Because if you look at someone who's one of my inspirations, Sarah Blakely, she's the Spanx founder and owner. It's $1 billion, company, and she's still the sole owner of it because she was always trying to find a way to partner with people at every step. And so I told myself, before I start giving away something that might seem like a concept, let me try to leverage my network. We all have a network, and now with COVID, the network I think has expanded exponentially. And you could really leverage that, and you have no idea, who knows who. So with that type of test, that's what I did. And I actually sourced a mentor through SCORE. And we never talked about that either, but SCORE is a bunch of very experienced people who have all types of backgrounds. And I went online. I didn't want to find someone from Houston. I was looking for someone specific, someone who understood exports and imports. And I found a mentor who was very successful in Vegas. And he was a descendant of some really big trade show that's the largest trade show that ever happens in Vegas. And he told me, Rahel, you cannot build this here affordably, because I couldn't find it. I was like, I didn't know where to go. It was just too expensive to build it out because I had the concept already made out. I actually found someone in Guatemala to do the 3D CAD drawings for me. And then I was just hustling. And so he was like, you need to go to China. So I literally just took a flight to China, never been to China, and just started visiting. Because even I went to a competition, actually, backtrack, I went to a competition that led me to the Spanx headquarters. And I just applied for it, and I spoke to the financial officer of Spanx, and she told me yeah, you need to go to China and find someone who has 20 plus years of experience, the type of manufacturing that you need to go and, evaluate them as a business owner. So I represented myself like I was a corporation, and I went there and I went to these different manufacturers. I networked while I was in China, 'cause I figured everyone does that. I took bullet trains, and I was just visiting 9 different cities, and literally on a budget, because it's not expensive, once you go outside the US. So I did that. Because of my engineering background, I was able to do my own, to formulate my own testing procedures using these American standard procedures that we have in the US. So I was able to find the ones that fit the style that I needed for the performance for my product. And I did my own testing through a third party in China, as a Swiss firm. And by doing all of that, I was able to, and partnering with people and convincing them of the vision for a very low cost, I was able to create multiple prototypes, test it all out, and then eventually worked a deal with a major manufacturer to do a batch supply to test out this product and to bring it to market. So we call that MVP, trying to make sure that your product will actually be successful in the market. You want to start off in the smallest way possible, whether it's a beta testing app or a small volume of a product, especially because it's a different type of product. And so when I came back to the States, and I was ready to build out my product and bring it to the States. It's when COVID, around the time of COVID, because COVID hit China first, then us, and everything was delayed. So I had a bunch of delays from that. But in the interim, I was able to be part of an accelerator that I think Jason's going to touch on, Div Inc. And that really exposed me to a lot of the startup language, like spaces, opportunities that I never was exposed to being in corporate America. And honestly, I realized at that time that I had such a limited mind frame of possibilities, because you think when you're in corporate, it's all about seniority, experience, like asking for permission. But in the startup space, it's like the bolder you are, the more respect you have, because people love, those who are excited and bold and trying out, new ideas, and just to see if they, and honestly, with that program, I got a lot of confidence to the point where it led me to, put myself out there more. And because of that, I was able to, once I brought my product to the States late in 2020 of August, as Jason mentioned, we were able to, have a decent soft launch. Like, we actually had sales, and I didn't do any advertising. And I really like contribute that to the fact that I was being held up by a supportive network. So as a solo founder, a lot of your success is not going to be all on your shoulders. Like, there's networks out there that want you to win, that tell your story, that, introduce you to people who you would never think to have met. And so, putting yourself out there in a way that maybe seems vulnerable, I would say is a skill set that's really going to lift you into the next phase and to possibilities. But also, I would also say that in Houston, the growing number of entrepreneurs, those who are taking chances, are actually growing this ecosystem. And so there's more possibilities of support now than it was when I started. So, and was not even that long ago. So it's really exciting to, be in Houston and seeing this growth, because when I was in Div Inc, I had to travel to Austin. I was taking a bus. I didn't have a car at the time. I finally bought a car, got a Prius. So but now it's in Houston. So it just shows the growth of what's happening. But like when I was hustling like saving all my coins, and that's possible, instead of going out to eat, you cook at home. Like, there's ways to save money and to fund your own ideas. And I told myself I'm funding my ideas, not my trips. So it's just, it's all about priorities. And this life is magical. Like, I just love, the entrepreneurship bug definitely bit me. Like, I have so many ideas. Like Philip said, you get more and more ideas. And so I'm just happy to share with you all, and, let the bug bite you too. So please ask any questions. I'm here to answer them. So thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Rahel. So a couple of things that I want to highlight there that came up. There's somebody who asked, what are ideal wholesalers to partner with? And one thing that I heard from the start was seek out, so expand your network, right? Seek out mentors like through SCORE, and I shared the link to SCORE in the chat, score.org, which is a great place to find retired business execs who literally are sitting there waiting to give you advice, right? With decades of business experience. So if you're trying to figure out how to, if you're trying to figure out like how to get involved, that is, and like building just a regular business or a startup, either way, SCORE is a great place. I'm also seeing a request from Laura for the business name. So Rahel's product is ClimaGuard. I'm going to share. I'll drop that in the chat. Actually, Rahel can do it. I'll let her do her own promo. But ClimaGuard, and I remember Rahel Ubering around without a car, right? Talking about going back and forth to China. I remember these conversations. So, and one other thing that she mentioned that I want to make sure to explain is solo founder. So this term is something that you'll hear, especially in the startup space. People typically are, especially investors, are looking for teams. You want to see, it's really hard to start a business in general, right? It's hard to create something in general. It's even harder to do that on your own, because everything can come up. You can have a freeze, and then all of a sudden your pipes burst and your house is in shambles, and what happens with your business or your job or whatever. So people, solo founder is absolutely a term that you'll hear. People often want to see teams because they want to know that if something happens to you, that this will be able to continue. So now I want to go to the first question, just to give a bit of an overview. We've talked about this a little bit, but who are some more of the need to know people, organizations, and resources for Black people in particular who are interested in entrepreneurship and startups, whether they're looking to start a business, they want to invest, or just work in the space? What are some of the need to know people, organizations, and resources? And I'll start with Shanette for that.
Yeah, so I wrote down some people, and just based on the experience that I had. So SURE, which is a program through the University of Houston, it's stimulating urban renewal through entrepreneurship. So the program focuses on minority small businesses. That's like they're geared towards that, but other people are invited. I would also say the Emancipation Economic Development Council, they have a program, they have a small business program inside of there. I would also TIER, which is the TSU Institute for Entrepreneurship and Economic Revitalization. So I know that they partner with the Emancipation Economic Development Council. I believe, Philip, they partner with the Urban League as well. So that's more of like a funding and investment arm. Rahel said SCORE. I would also say the Houston Business Development Inc., as well as Lift Fund. So, and a lot of those are more on the funding and investment side. But, Greater Houston Black Chamber, the Urban League, Impact Hub, just anything that has to do with business. The City of Houston, they have a business arm, and they do, different things. So I would suggest getting on all of those email lists and just plugging yourself in. And that way, when things become available, you know about them. When things are going on in the city, like you have a point of reference. You may not be able to go to everything. You may not know everybody, but what you'll start to see, what I've seen in Houston, is that a lot of people start to, their names and, what the organizations, they typically partner a lot. So if you know about one organization, that organization will partner with the other organization. And if you're on both of their email lists, then you have all the information right there. So Houston is a large city, but the resources, the resources are growing, as Rahel said, they're growing, but it's really, really small right now. So, just get on some email lists. All of the names that Jason put in the chat, go to their websites and sign up for their emails, and I think you'll be good to go.
Yeah, Philip, anybody to add?
Yeah, no, I think Shanette kind of ran down the list. The only thing I would add is stay involved with the government. And so find out what's going on with at the county level, the city level, and all the different auxiliaries, whether it's the airport, metro, port. I mean, there's billions of dollars that are circulating through our city and our county. And they're looking, they did a study on it. They did a study on how they can give us money. We're on this call talking about we want to make a profit, and they're spending money to find out how to give you the money. So that should just tell you, if you're serious about starting a business, Shanette was spot on. You get plugged into all these different organizations, or people might call them startup development organizations. Get on their email list, take advantage of those free resources, but go to those council meetings, go to those county hearings, and really find out where the contracts are, especially since we had several natural disasters. Every time we have a natural disaster, the federal government says, hey, here's money for somebody to get rich. Think about it like that. I know obviously I'm praying for everybody and their recovery, even as we continue to get over last week's winter storm. Even I have my own situations, but I'm also praying that everybody who's still moving forward, pushing the needle forward, they take advantage of those resources that will come down the pipeline. The other piece I'll say, Jason, is get to know people personally. And so as Shanette went down all those different organizations, find out who the key person is. And so if you go to the Urban League and you know Eric Goody, you know that Eric Goody is in a position to send an email out and people will open it. If you go to Impact Hub and you know Jason, or you know Grace, or you know Michelle, you know that they're one email away from somebody. SBA, the Mark Winchester, and Tim Jeffcoat, and then the Black Chambers, who they're president. Don't just take a seat. Like, really introduce yourself, because I know even when we pick people to pitch in competitions and other opportunities that I've been involved in, the first people I look for are the people I know, because I know those people will show up, they make themselves known, and they're just like the Rahels of the world and like the Shanettes of the world, where they have no problem articulating their value proposition and what they're doing to make an impact. And that's who you want to be. You want to be the first person these key people think about. We're a big city, but we're really not that big. I promise you, everybody we're talking about, we all have personal relationships with them. And that's the reason why I'm hoping that, Jason and Nkechi brought us to this panel and actually to share these resources with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all that. So we've dropped a lot in the chat. Hopefully people are seeing these. I'll also encourage you to save the chat at the end. If you're having trouble kind of keeping up, that's one of the nice features of Zoom. If you are watching this on Facebook, I hope you'll rewind a little bit and try and catch up with some of these. And so next up, I'm going to go into funding. So we've had a few questions about funding, asking about business models. Philip, that might be a question for you, asking about, we've talked a bit about like differences in financing requirements. And then there's also a question about how did you make a good, solid financial plan for your business? So I want to start there, and maybe either Rahel or Shanette wants to talk about how did you create a good, solid financial plan for your business?
Rahel, do you want to start, or I can take it first?
Okay, either way.
Go ahead, girl.
Okay. So I started off finding a mentor in SCORE, because honestly, I did not know, like, how do you price? Like, what's pricing strategy? Like, what do you account for when it comes to another idea I have for y'all, but like, what do you account for when it comes to like the different costs with warehousing? Just that it's good to find whatever business you want to go into, find someone who is a senior or who has worked in that, like that type of part of that business, where they could help you with your setting up your financial plan, and just to kind of verify. You can guess it out, but like you want to verify that it makes sense. And a lot of information is out there online too, so you could kind of find a lot of that information. But another trick that I did, y'all, was I tapped into my alumni network and I got a couple of interns. So I went to undergrad at UT, and I had, the UT business school, those students are smart, they're sharp. So I had them also review my spreadsheets and, made them more like, I guess you'd call it like automated, to where I could just like, try different models, whether it's wholesaling or retailing. And interns want experience. And if you're a business, you're also helping them out by giving them, an opportunity to have real experience. And for them to work on a startup and just to be part of that as a student, like you're really, it's mentorship, but it's a complimentary win. And that's what we did when we were in college, but we did it for corporations. But this interns, you're still a corporation. They still want to work with you. And so I would also utilize those types of alumni networks that you are part of to find an intern for the summer, and, give them like maybe like a couple hours a week type of, opportunity for them to work on something, whether it's understanding like Facebook marketing so they could teach you, or market research on like whether the market is, a viable market for you to be investing in. Like they know, and they also have access to databases that you don't have access to because you got to pay for it, but the university pays for it because it's part of their student tuition. And I got access to that too. So that's just some tips for you guys on how to hustle on a budget.
Hustle on a budget. Yeah, so financially, before I left my job, I'd saved up a little bit of money just because I wanted to. When I left my job, I was like, I'm going to go start this and it's going to be great. And I quickly found out that is really not how business works. So luckily I did have some money saved. But going through the SURE program, that program, I believe it's 12 weeks, but they had all the participants, you put together a business plan. And a part of the business plan is your financials. So I really got down to my cost of goods sold, marketing and owner's pay and like all of the things I needed to know about my financials. We did it at the SURE program. And so when I left the SURE program, they gave me a SCORE mentor and they went back over my numbers. I had an accountant who I was working with, and they went back over my numbers. I'm right now just got a new accountant and we're going back over my numbers. So for me, it's a numbers game. All of my products, I'll say 90% of my products are made in Ghana, West Africa. And so while the product itself may not cost a lot, shipping is, my biggest expense when I do shipments. And so, making sure that the shipping and the product are priced together, again, the cost of goods sold, so that I'm not underpriced, I'm not undercharging for the product and not making a profit. So I'm constantly going through my financials. I'm constantly going through my numbers. I would say a good book that I've tapped into is Profit First, which I see everybody is, yes, that's a great book. And the premise is, if you're going to be in business, as a business owner, your job is to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. The thing you don't want to do is you're making money, but you're not paying yourself. And even if that payment is not what you were making at your corporate job, but you need money to live. And so you have to have money to eat. And so you want to make sure that your expenses are not outweighing your revenue. It's pretty much the basis of the book. But yeah, also looking for grants, with the whole, the social justice reckoning that our country is going through right now. There are a lot of corporations, organizations that are looking for Black businesses to give money to. So tap into those types of things where they have, grants, free money that they want to give to you, accelerators, they're handing out money. I mean, there's so many grants out there right now that I was told people are just not applying for because they don't know about them. But these grants, $5, $10, $15,000, that adds up really quickly. So again, those newsletters, and Jason is doing a very good job of like capturing all of them, but those newsletters, anytime something comes across my email, I'm checking to see how can I use it to benefit, Africa on my back.
Yeah, that is, so the link to Profit First was dropped in the chat. I also encourage you to support your local independent bookstore. So I would highly recommend you go to, if you're in Houston, Brazos Bookstore is one of my favorites. So definitely support your local bookstores. We're talking about small businesses. Those are vital, especially as we're trying to build relationships in the city. That's vital here. We have a few things. Let's see. One thing that I wanted to highlight that Rahel mentioned and didn't really talk about at length is the Houston Community College. Houston Community College is an amazing entrepreneurship resource here. And we can't really overstate that at all. Like the programming, low cost courses, if you just want to get started and learn, that is a big part of the Liftoff Houston program. If anyone is familiar with the Liftoff Houston program, they actually take you through courses on starting a business. So whether you're trying to compete in the actual program, they have courses that walk you through how to start a business, whether it's a startup or just any traditional small business. So I highly recommend you look at the different workshops that they're offering, because they'll take you through things like that. They'll require you to meet with a SCORE mentor, which we've said many times, and there's a reason why that keeps coming up. They'll talk you through what are the types of business, right? Nonprofits versus LLCs versus C Corps and B Corps and so on. So they'll talk you through some of these different things you need to know. I want to.
Can I add something really quickly?
Go ahead, please.
What you said about all of the different programs, I would tell people, all of these programs, you should be going through all of them. Like, don't just pick one and go through. I think at every stage of your business, and each program has something different that they're offering. I mean, I would start one. When you finish that and get that business plan done, go to the next one. because your business is always evolving and so is your business plan, right? And so to be in all of these different programs, you're soaking up so much information. You're meeting so many different people, like you're coming in contact with different organizations and different people. It's all, I would say, go through all of them. Don't do one and say, I'm done. No, do all of them.
Yeah, I second. Even there's a founder, Deidre Mathis, who we're all friends with, and she's opening up her second franchise of WonderStay. And I remember her going through every single program. Now, she went through the Urban League program twice. I'm like, why are you here? Like, I already know you've won thousands of dollars, but she's taking notes. She's working on her pitch. She's refining her numbers. She's actually mentoring people in the program, but she's doing exactly what Shanette said. She's taking advantage of all the resources, the people. And so, yeah, I can't stress that enough. Go to all of them. They're free.
Yep, every single solitary one of them. Because even if you came to work with us at Deck Launch, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to send you straight to some of the free programs. One of those be included is Philip's program. And a lot of what Philip does as an entrepreneur and a founder of a startup. So like you're going to be working with people who have your best interest in it, and there's going to be a whole bunch of people with different perspectives. And the most important thing about understanding your business is understanding the multiple perspectives that may be out there. Not one person is going to give you the right answer. If you do not know that now, you know that today. But one of the things that is awesome is like in our community, all of us are working together within 1 degree of separation. So even the people who have been working with me since my business started 3-4 years ago have probably been working with people or affiliated with. I know they're working with Philip already, but I know they're affiliated with people like Shanette and Rahel at the same time. Like it's like. When you find out how awesome our Black community is for small businesses and startups, you'll realize that it's your opportunity to be able to ask questions, because you ain't gonna get a lot of time to do that when you start to make money.
So I want to pass it to Philip as our attorney. I want to pass it to you to kind of talk about so registering a nonprofit. Can a nonprofit be registered as an LLC is the first question. And then second, what is the benefit of registering your business prior to obtaining clients rather than, why like register an LLC or some kind of corporation as opposed to just running as a sole proprietorship?
No, good question, Jason. And I always want to give a quick disclaimer that I'm not your attorney. This is me just giving some friendly advice. This is friends talking. All right, I got to protect my bar card. I got 2 little babies back there. No, it's a good question because a lot of founders, you know, when you come up with your idea, you know, a lot of times it's due to a problem you're trying to solve or something that you experience. And so you have a subjective attachment to it. And sometimes you're not thinking objectively in terms of what you should be doing and all the legal liabilities that come along with being an entrepreneur. So Jason said something earlier about solo founders. So even when you're a solo founder, the day you start to go into business, so you talk about your idea, which is your intellectual property, you now are interfacing with liability. And so the only way you can truly protect yourself is if you start having some kind of contract. As a sole proprietor, you don't have that ability because basically you're just giving yourself the right to do business because you're saying, I'm going to suffer the consequences, whether, you know, the profits and losses and all the tax liabilities, and then also all the personal liability that comes with being a business owner. And that includes if you get a DBA at the county level. That is just a license to do business. You can open up a bank account, but you're still encountering liability. And so as a lawyer, I tell people, you know, even if you're the single member LLC, or you're the solo founder of a corporation, or you're the only founding director of a nonprofit, still get incorporated at the state level so that you can protect yourself. Not to mention because it allows you to build capacity. And then if you have something else that Jason was talking about, you know, when you start bringing people on, because you don't want to do this alone. And Shanette and Doug and Rahel was speaking about the experience of the Black ecosystem here in Houston. I'll tell people, even with my startup that I started, and I'm not going to talk about it a lot tonight, but Equiliberty, I've grown really fast because of the people I know in this space. And I didn't want to do it alone. So what I did was I said, you know what? I know somebody who knows how to help me build an MVP in the deck. And so I went to this person called Dr. Franklin, and he helped me build that so then I can communicate to other people what I'm really trying to get out of my head to do. And then I went to somebody who Jason's good friends with, Aaron McClarity. And I was like, you know what, you're in this space in terms of building equity models and having social impact. And so she helped me get my ideas. And then I went to another person who does branding and marketing. So I went to all these people in the community that either may be subject matter experts, have small businesses, and I built a team around it. I'm saying all that to say that one, you shouldn't go it alone. And if you do, don't go up very far. And then as you grow, you're going to need to bring on independent contractors, consultants, and people to help you get to the marketplace. And the only way you can do that in good conscience is if you have a LLC, a limited liability company, or you're incorporated as a C Corp, and then if you're a nonprofit. And then something else Jason spoke to is you may elect to become an S Corp, which is basically a small business corporation at the federal level. You usually don't do that unless your CPA, your financial advisor, tells you to do that. And I would say somebody like, Jeanette, who's been in business since 2016, she might have reached that revenue mark where it makes sense for her to be a small business corporation so that she can treat herself as an employee versus just a member of her LLC or just a business owner. And so those are different tax questions. You also said, can you start and help me and make sure
a
that
nonprofit as an LLC?
Yeah, you can start your nonprofit as an LLC. The question is, why would you do it, right? That's what I would ask if I was an attorney. What are you trying to accomplish? Because you can tell the state anything, and as long as you have a good lawyer, they can put the verbiage down and get it approved by the state. And then when you submit your 1023, which is the next step to make sure that you're considered a tax exempt nonprofit, if that's a part of your strategy, yes, eventually you'll get it approved. But I would think that if your goal is to start a nonprofit to have a greater impact, it's better to be protected under the as a corporation, because they have the strongest legal status in terms of shielding you from personal liability. And you as a executive director, CEO, or founder, you want to protect yourself and also all your agents that you're going to hire eventually. So I would encourage you to C Corp. That will allow you to also get a board that will feel protected, and then you'll get board insurance and things of that nature. So as you grow, you have the ability to get the resources you need to have impact. So I hope I answered your question. If not, please tell me now before Jason rips the mic away from me. But I'll just tell you, if you start an LLC to start a nonprofit, I'll say, why are you doing it? What are you truly trying to accomplish? Because maybe what you're trying to tell to me is you want to do a B corporation, which is a for-profit corporation that has a social good impact aspect to it. And then we just say, let's get a public good corporation started versus turn the LLC to a nonprofit. And by the way, that wasn't legal advice. That's just me and Jason, and we're just having a conversation with you guys. All right, that's all that was.
You're such a lawyer. You're such a lawyer, Philip. But like one of the things I do want y'all to know is that like what he literally just said is what he does as soon as a business comes calling. So I'm not. So like this is very sincere. This is very real. And what we want you guys to know is the four of us are within a degree of separation. So like it's not like we do not work with each other. All of us work together in some way or fashion between one flip. And so what Philip was telling you is completely the truth with regards of how you're going to have the opportunity to get a whole bunch of resources as long as you ask. People don't ask and they don't know how far we can go. And if you have an idea, push for your idea, but continue to roll it out, because if you're like in a circle with the four of us or other people who are like us, because there's a bunch of people that are a part of this entrepreneurial circle, get on, just continue to get on with us and really just continue to find the assets that are necessary for you to build your business. You need people, you need intelligence, you can get it all within the circle of people that look just like you here in Houston.
So Dr. Franklin, I want to ask you a quick question I'm seeing pop up. So is there a moment when somebody should formally establish an actual LLC versus just operating as a DBA?
So you want to so even if he's not an LLC, in Philip is going to be the best. So don't ask me how you're supposed to incorporate, because my clients go to Philip. But I will tell you that you should incorporate your business, whether it be an LLC or whatever it is. It's better to do it sooner rather than later. The reason why is because it separates things away from what you do personally. But additionally, and this is where I got my doctorate in, is this is of how it makes you feel in the decision that you make. So obviously there are legal things, there are business things, but there is something about you saying this is a real business rather than being just a DBA. Even if an LLC could just be a pass-through. It's something about you incorporating your business that changes the way that you operate. You take it a lot more seriously when it is an entity by itself that affects you. The investors call it putting skin in the game. That's the first skin you put into the game is with your business. And you should always incorporate your businesses and your business ideas. And it doesn't mean that, and so for those who are like, well, I have multiple business ideas, there are multiple.
I want to get
ways
into. I don't want to get into that because we haven't had that question come through, and we have quite a few questions that we've had
continue.
come by. So yeah,
Yep.
Phil, do you have a response there as far as like when is the point to like buckle down and say, I'm gonna file something. I'm gonna file some paperwork. This is no longer just like somebody writing me a check as Jason Oliver.
Yeah, no, I'll keep it as short as I can. The day you decide to take that idea and put it on paper and move forward. Like if you want to get into SURE program, they're going to look at whether or not you're a properly registered business. If you want to get into HTC small business plan corporate competition, they're going to look at it. Urbanly will accept you over there because that's the nature of that setup. But when you start wanting to do business, and doing business doesn't mean you're actually servicing customer. Again, that means that you have a partnership. You don't want that partnership to exist without a legal structure around it and there being a properly situated operating agreement or some kind of founders agreement that dictates what that relationship looks like, or even hiring a marketing person or bringing on consultants. You need a legal entity to protect you, like Doug said, from personal liability, but also from the liability of others that you may be doing business with. So that the quicker you can start operating as, XYZ person, founder, member, owner of such and such business on all your contracts and your engagement, the better you are and the more serious people will take you.
Can I add to that, Jason?
Please.
So I agree. I mean, obviously Philip's a lawyer, so he knows more, but definitely if you're trying to start a business and you are concerned with funding, right? And so just like Jeanette said, you want to get a grant because there's grants out there, and they're not going to give you a grant if you just have a business idea with not being incorporated. They're going to want to see that you have established business. So you are actually, are able to get access to funding that won't dilute your ownership by having your business incorporated, not by having an idea. Also, liability is so important because, this is the US. People are always going to be like, well, how are you responsible? So, you want to protect your assets. And then 3, an entity is a living, breathing organization. So if just like you need to build up your credit when you are trying to get a car loan, same thing for your business. So if you were like saying, I've been operating, but then all of a sudden I established at this time frame and they can't tie it to that, then it's, you're going to have to go and find another way to get sources of, funding. So it's really better off to start off, for the minds, just like Dr. Douglas said, like for your mentality's sake, but also for accessing capital that you don't, just to validate your idea, and also being part of programs that can help you, because these programs, a lot of them you don't need to have a business that's profitable or revenue generating. A lot of times they just, they want to just see you're serious enough so that they can give you to allow you to tap into their networks and what they have funded for themselves in order to be able to give you a lift off on your business. So yes, and it really costs like a couple $100, $300 to incorporate your business. It's not that much money. So that's my 2 cents.
So there are a couple questions about if you have multiple ideas, how do you decide which one to start, or and then how do you start a business with little money? One thing that I want to highlight, and that I think people might realize if you're thinking back to what these panelists have said throughout, is all of these people have kind of a mission in mind, right? There's a problem that they're solving, and that is incredibly important. If you're not actually solving a problem, meeting someone's need, then no matter how good the idea is, you're going to have even more trouble getting it off the ground than you would traditionally. So really think about, even if you're not starting now, that doesn't mean a manufacturing business, right? If you're trying to start ClimaGuard and you have no capital and you're not able to, you're not going to be able to start some kind of manufacturing business with no money. So there are different types of entities. So that's one of the distinctions that people will often make between startups and small businesses. You can't start a what do you call it? You can't open a grocery store, right, or a restaurant, which is traditionally seen as a small business. You can't open up one of those and with no capital, right? That has a very high overhead. What you can do is create something like NextSeed. Well, still requires some money, but what you can do is create some kind of crowdfunding platform where you're able to allow people to invest in businesses. NextSeed is a local business that allows people to invest, and I'll share the link in the chat. But they're actually based here in Houston. So you can start that, and it's able to scale, and it's able to make a ton of money, right? And it doesn't require, at least, it doesn't require anywhere near the amount of overhead that it would be to create some kind of brick and mortar business. So that is, I hope I've answered some of those questions to try and bring them together in one. I want to circle back to the question about accelerators versus incubators. I told you all at the beginning that we will come back to it. We're here now. And someone actually asked about Rahel's experience going through DivInc. And I think it's valuable to take some time for those people who might be interested in something like DivInc, which is actually taking applications right now. I'll drop the link in there again for their Houston program. We've talked about the ION, which is the hub of Rice's Innovation District. DivInc is going to be based out of the ION, which is the old Sears building in Midtown Houston. So Rahel, if you can talk about the difference between accelerators and incubators, and then your experience in DivInc.
Okay, and please feel free to correct me if I'm incorrect, because I've never done an incubator. I just know, based on the ones that I've spoken to, interviewed with, they are going to be taking in startups that they believe that they can help grow by providing you like an advisory team. That's the one that I spoke to, the Austin incubator, when I was in Austin. And it's a long-term commitment. Like you're going to be with them for 9 months plus. And they want to help to kind of take your business to a certain level. Whereas the accelerator, very fast paced, it's a shorter duration. DivInc was 3 months. And there are different types of accelerators out there. There's different types of incubators out there. So it's all about where you're at, trying to find a program that meets you where you're at. So DivInc was considered a pre-accelerator, meaning that they were targeting those who did not have, companies that did not have revenue yet. They weren't revenue generating, still in the ideation phase even. But still, you and your co-founder, or you as a solo founder, had a concept, a business plan, idea that you were trying to take to that next level of testing it out in the market. And they provide a network of opportunities for you to engage with angel investors, but also learn about what angel investing is, learn about VCs. They give you workshops on like the workshops we had were Monday through Thursday. And with those workshops, they have follow-ups of what they want you to do in order to implement these learnings into your business in real time. So there's a lot of pressure to follow what the program curriculum was, but at the same time, they're giving exposure because they're part of a network system of those investors who are looking into these accelerators as hubs of like startups and potential opportunities for them to invest in you. And then they also want to be your mentor because they, especially ones that pair up with a lot of the marketplace interests that they invest in and like adding value to you and you possibly being an opportunity for them to invest in seed money. So it's like this really interesting space where like that accelerates your business, because if you're yourself, you could get lost in the sauce, as I call it, and like research a lot, but not know exactly like what are the practical steps of taking next. They save you time, they help you with brainstorming, and they literally want you to win. So I think everyone should go through some type of accelerator program, but shop around because each of them are going to focus on different, I guess they offer different value. DivInc has been curated for minority-owned businesses and meaning women and people of color. And so I just wanted to be in a community that I felt I identify with and felt that I could be open and honest and share in just, my struggles with. So I love DivInc. I'm always advocating for them. But I know there's other opportunities out there in Houston as well. So please shop around. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak to that before we move on? Okay, keep the questions coming in. I'm still going through and looking at the questions. Let's talk about funding. So there are different ways. Has anyone taken out a loan for your business? And if so, how can you talk a little bit about going through that process? What are some of the different ways of seeking funding? I've heard reference or heard mentioned to angel investors or venture capital loans. You also have grants, right? So we've talked about a bit of that. I think we absolutely do need to get more into, and then Next Seed. If anybody wants to kind of explain what Next Seed is and how it works, because that absolutely is a way that companies, small businesses, and I think it's all small businesses at this point, are seeking funding. Shanette, do you want to kind of talk about your experience going through the loan process?
Yeah, so I think my experience, I don't know if I'm an anomaly or what, but I went to my bank, Wells Fargo. I had been banking with them since undergrad. So I had, all this banking history with them. And I was using one of my personal accounts with them as my business account. Like I hadn't officially opened a business account. But they were able to see that there were transactions. So they saw deposits and they saw debits. And so when I went to the bank, I just said, I've been a customer with you all. They pulled up my history and they said, this is what you should apply for. It was a business line of credit. Now, mind you, I'd gone to Sure. So when I did my pitch at Sure, they said, you don't need a business loan for what you need. You need a business line of credit, right? So I think understanding the different types of financial opportunities that are out there. A business loan is something that they're going to give you. Let's say you're asking for $25,000. That's a lump sum of money that you get at one time. And then there are terms and how you pay it back. A business line of credit is a revolving line of credit that for me, I needed the money to purchase inventory. So that line of credit was afforded to me for 5 years. So as I pay it back, it's almost like a credit card. As I pay it back, I'm able to use it again. So when I went to the bank, I thought I needed a loan. That's because, that's what everyone says. You need a loan. And the people at the Sure program, one of the guys, he said, you don't need a loan. It sounds like you need a business line of credit. I went to Wells Fargo and I said, I want a business line of credit. What do I need to do? At the time, the business banker was a Black woman, and she sat down with me. She said, okay, she filled out the application with me. She said, you should have an answer in like, 3 or 4 days. And it came back. It wasn't the amount that I asked for, but it was a business line of credit that I would be able to use. It shows the history with Africa on my back having this line of credit and not Jeanette Prince, because I was able to use my EIN. So I've been building this credit history. I was also able to get a business credit card. So all of those things are, they say Africa on my back, which is what I want them to say. And, as a sole proprietor, and at the time, I'll just say this, when I got those, I was still using a DBA. Africa on my back was not an LLC yet. So, you can still get funding depending on who you're trying to get it from with just your DBA or as a sole proprietor. But I was able to open all that up. I had an EIN number, but because that was the main thing. I was like, I don't want you to use my social. I don't want this to be under my social security number. So I used my EIN, but we were still a DBA, and I was able to secure that funding. The process was not strenuous. Again, that's my experience. I've heard other people that, the larger banks are kind of difficult. But I was able, like I said, the person who I worked with, she looked like me. She was there for the community, and the process was really smooth. The process was really smooth for me. One thing that was a turnoff was I went through one of the nonprofit organizations, and the application was so cumbersome. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even want the funding if I have to do all this. And I think they do that to weed people out, right? If someone is going to give you a large sum of money, they want to make sure that you're serious because they want their money back. But I didn't, the application was just too cumbersome for me. I knew that, again, I had been, before even having a business, I was a good steward of my money. I was making sure that my credit score was, where it needed to be. So when I walked into the bank, there were no issues. And I think that that's, as you're thinking about starting a business, making sure that your credit score, you don't have a lot of debt. You don't have a whole lot of credit cards with a bunch of charge-offs or just high balances. If you're going to invest in your company, because again, that's what you're starting. You're starting, whether you call it a startup or a small business, this is a company. You are an owner, you are a founder, and you have to start to look at it and be serious that way. And so how can I position myself to get everything that is available to me? And if that means that my credit score needs to be, I don't know, whatever that needs to be. I think 800 is the highest. So you want to be as close to 800 as you can. Work on getting your credit together before you start the business, so that when you start the business, you can walk into a bank and say, hey, this is my credit score. I know that I qualify. What do I need to do? A lot of times they ask for collateral. And collateral is just you having some skin in the game. If you're going to ask the bank for $20,000, they want to know, do you have $5,000 in the bank? That if you don't pay us our 20 back, we can recoup the 5. So having collateral, whether that, sometimes it's cash, sometimes it's your house, sometimes it's your car, but just an asset that they can recoup their money in the event that you don't pay them back. And all of this is really just, basic finance 101. When you go to get a car, when you are going to buy a house, they want to see your credit score. They want to see, your income to debt ratio. It's the same thing with the business. It's the same thing with the business. So if you look at it that way, that I am now the business of, I am Africa on my back. Jeanette Prince is Jeanette, but I'm also Africa on my back. I have to make the decisions in the best way I can for Africa on my back, because actually we are one and the same. The bank and funders look at us as one and the same. So before you put your name on anything, make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, your finances, start paying down. The only debt that maybe you don't want to pay down is those student loans, because hopefully they're going to let us write them off. But in the event that they don't, I've heard that that's the good debt to have, is student loans. So, but anyway, yeah. So that's been my experience with the loans.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to when our president decides to cancel all of our student loans. I am speaking that into existence for all of us. Yes.
Yes.
and we will all start another business after we have our student loan debt forgiven, and it's going to be amazing. So I want to make sure that people have an idea of where to go, right? After this, people need to know, where do I go if I want to learn more? Where do I go if I want to know how to start a startup? That's going to be a quick plug. Where do I go if I want to be in community with people who are talking about entrepreneurship? We talked about some of these programs, but just what are some of the different programs and things that people are looking forward to in the near future that you're around? I also want to highlight Meetup. For me, I find that pretty much outside of the world of tech, Meetup is not really used. But if you're interested in startups and tech, then Meetup, it can be a good place to find some of the events that are going on. Hello Alice, as Rahel just dropped in the chat, is a Houston-based company, but provides resources for people that are interested in startups. There are also a lot of great resources for women in particular. So Dr. Franklin, yeah, if people want to know how to start a startup, where do they go?
Well, I mean, so I would be biased if I told y'all to come holler at me, right? So I'm not supposed to say that. No, but like sincerely, if you have a really cool idea, if you don't understand how you want to build it out, you can go to all the most amazing, esteemed people who are on basically on this webinar, but this is what we do on the business side. We are so happy to help people try to discern their ideas from, basically when you have all these things swirling around, we help people bring it all together. That's really what we do. We like to help people launch their ideas to the best of their ability. And the best thing is, as we've talked about how all of these businesses come together, you're not too far away from Jeanette, Rahel, or Philip, because one of them is going to get a call from me. And that's what happens after we finish your pitch deck. And so, like, we are happy to help you if you have an early stage idea. If you need us, we're there. And there's other places you can go, but we do a lot of research that you don't normally do, and we slide to people like the amazing people on this entire board that you've seen for this whole conversation, that will get you to where your idea will come to fruition.
I want to make sure, are you still doing your workshop series?
Yes, we absolutely are doing. Yes, so we are. So in tandem with the ION, first Tuesday every month, we're doing. We're definitely doing perfecting your pitch. So next Tuesday we're doing perfecting your pitch with the ION. You can go onto the ION, and we will make sure that it is in also for the deck launch social media, so you can get on, and we give you basically pitch deck 101. What you're supposed to do when you pitch, what should be in your pitch deck, and how you shouldn't lose. Like, we just really want to see everybody win. Well, everybody should win, but we like really seeing everybody who looks like us win. We're biased, and that's okay.
Great. So I'm gonna drop in the chat the next Perfecting Your Pitch session is coming up on this coming Tuesday. So even if you are somebody who doesn't really have your idea, or just kind of wants to be around and see what people are talking about, that is a great place to go in and just be around people and listen. I also will drop, it's been a little while, so the second week is going to be how to start a startup. That is also a workshop that happens monthly and is something to check out. And then just the startup showcase, just to kind of be around and see what are some of the different things that are happening. So the Houston Startup Showcase takes place monthly, and it's now virtual, just like everything else. But that next one is coming up on March 24th as well. So these are are 3 events where it's really specifically for the startup ecosystem. These are great places and ways to get involved. Anything else that's coming up that you think of as virtual spaces, especially for people that are into green energy or into like beauty products, beauty and natural hair care?
Would New Voices be a good one? New Voices, there's the Target has an accelerator. Also, there's a new, would you call it an incubator, Jason? Greentown. Have you heard of Greentown? That came from Boston. They focus on green technologies. There's maker spaces in Houston Makerspace. Now, I know this is hot right now, but let me tell y'all, if you have an iPhone, get on Clubhouse, because Clubhouse is what is really like relevant in conversations in real time, and people who are on all types of levels in their business or even business curious, like coming together and in that one platform in real time. So if you can get, I have Clubhouse invites. So if you can message me on LinkedIn or something, I'll send you some. But you could literally look up like CPG businesses, because what you're talking about, Jason, is businesses that are in, who have an e-commerce type of product, which is going to be skin beauty, or even food, like Sienna Sausages that just came out from Houston as well, or Sugarland area, and they were on Shark Tank. So yeah, CPG businesses, a lot of them are supported through Austin, because Austin's like a hub for a lot of those types of businesses. So they have Naturally Austin, which is, they also have a lot of now virtual programs too. So I would definitely say that, going to these spaces with these like local networking events, you could talk to people about those questions, and they probably know someone or know an organization that's relevant to you too, because again, there's a lot of overlap. But get on Clubhouse, because you'll get a lot of real time questions answered.
Yeah, Clubhouse, I just last night, actually, there was a room just kind of checking in on people who are involved in startups. And actually, maybe it was entrepreneurship. No, I think it was actually startups in Houston, because on Clubhouse, people have been organizing benefit concerts for Texas, just to raise money for relief and for aid here in the city. So a lot of that work has been an array of people that were involved. And I remember the room last night, I'm pretty sure I was the only Black person on stage. I remember there were like a couple of people in the audience, but again, like this is something we need more of us. And you don't necessarily have to be a techie or even somebody who started a business, but if you're interested in this, even if you don't want to start a business, right? But you have some financial expertise, or you are working in oil and gas, and you can serve as a mentor, right? You can provide some of that business experience. That is essential. It doesn't just take somebody with the idea, like you need people who can implement and who can help bring the idea to fruition as well. One person I want to make sure to mention is Denise Hamilton, who started Watch Her Work. We haven't brought her up yet, but she has a website, Watch Her Work, with videos about geared toward women, but about every topic around being a professional, and starting a business is one of those topics. And so I shared a link that goes directly to that. Are there any questions that are popping up that I want to give some folks time during these last couple minutes before we start winding down to answer any questions that you kind of want to speak to that you're seeing in the Q&A?
Yeah, Jason, I know there was a question that somebody posted, I think once or twice, and they were asking about formulating relationships. I think we've all kind of spoke to it in a number of capacities. And I'll tell you, even as you go through accelerators and incubators, know what you want, like have something in mind. That's one of the issues that came up in some of the smaller groups that I've talked to of entrepreneurs who are doing very well for themselves. Are like, you go from incubator to incubator, accelerator, and then you come out of them and you don't have what you truly need, which is, I'm hoping, a customer, right? That's what you're truly trying to get. You're trying to get a customer, a paying customer. You're not trying to know everything in the world. You're not trying to check off every box that exists. You're trying to figure out who's going to help me get enough capacity to get a customer. And if that accelerator, incubator organization cannot do it, then they're not the right one for you. And at the very beginning, obviously, I think take the advice of the panel, go to as many as possible. But once you get some footing, after that, it's about building a team. It's about finding mentors, about getting customers, about showing traction, and traction meaning that you can at least produce $1 from a paying customer. Now, to answer that other question directly that you put, I think that's a very vital question, because as you're trying to find out what's right for you, you have to know the right person that has enough insight that can share their perspective. And I'll tell you, it starts on panels like this. I would ask, Jason or Nkechi, like, can everybody drop their email? And then I would email everybody on here at least once. In case, whatever, everybody on here might be busy, so you may not get a response tonight. You may not even get a response tomorrow. Follow up with them, add them on LinkedIn. Find out, make sure that you follow Climate Guard on Instagram. Make sure, you follow everybody's business, and you just keep staying at it. And I'm telling you, that's how I build relationships. And now I know certain founders that if they text me right now, I'm going to respond, and I'm going to tell them anything I know to try to help them get where they need to be at. And that's what you have to be. You have to be relentless about what you're really trying to accomplish. And so for me, I think that's the true spirit of an entrepreneur. They understand how to get resources, and Shanette's used this word several times. They know how to be a good steward of it in order to return a profit to their stakeholders. Right now, you are the key stakeholder in your organization, or if you have a spouse or you have kids, you have some other stakeholders, and obviously as you build a team out. But that's it. You have to be relentless. Find out where those people are at, add them on LinkedIn, send them emails, and then build relationships. And then those are the people who will make sure that you get to the right program so that you can eventually get the capital, have customers, and then go on to be a successful entrepreneur like those you see on this esteemed panel. So I'm hoping that answers your question, but it's really about being relentless and making a connection. So those people, you're building your own credibility by staying accountable and staying at it. And then they want to be your mentor because they say, you know what, this person is trying so hard to get in touch with me. And they shared their story. I trust them with my resources. That's what you need to be able to do with people. So that's something some people taught me, and that's how I actually got my credit. So, I'll say this and I'll shut up. We're talking about getting funding. And so Shanette really spoke to funding from a bank. And what she really hit on was personal guarantee. So you need to know that word, being a personal guarantor, because as she was talking about separating herself from her company, she also talked about her being a good steward and how she built her own reputation as a good steward of finances. And that's why Wells Fargo gave her money. They looked at her personal credit and extended it to her business. Now she has a successful business. I'll tell you, when I'm talking about building these relationships, I was able to raise funding for my idea that I've been just sitting on. And now I haven't went through all these accelerators, incubators. In fact, a lot of people don't even know my idea, but I built relationships and I was able to articulate that value proposition. I was able to sell it to a stakeholder and even get a customer to sign off on it, all because, again, I was relentless in my pursuit and in the way of me showing that was my credibility. And I lent that, and then somebody was able to give me money because they say, you know what, it's risky. Maybe they'll never get their money back. But they say, well, I believe in Philip because this is a part of his purpose. Again, Jason told you that. You got to be able to articulate your purpose because everybody on this platform has it. And that's how you get funding. That's how you build relationships, because people say, you know what, I understand their why, I understand their purpose, and they've actually built a reputation with me that I trust them with my resources. And that's what this whole game is about, demystifying, de-risking you as an entrepreneur. And then for what it's worth, some of us got a target on our back because we're African-American. Oh, now you're a woman and you're African-American, you might have two exits. But as you can see, hearing these two ladies talk, we have what it takes, we're doing it, and so will you, so.
And I would love, and I really want to make sure that we reinforce this, because one of the questions that was in the Q&A session is like, how do you do this with fear? You can't be an entrepreneur or a business owner or a startup founder without being able to accept the fear as part of the game. It is this, to get into what we are doing is one of the scariest things you will ever do in your life. You're going to sacrifice things that are going to affect the people that are the closest around you for the greater good of you. At some point, your community probably first, because of how amazing these Black entrepreneurs that we're on this call are. But it takes time and it takes patience. And I really hope that the people who are just still like gung ho, and I hope all of you guys are gung ho about starting a business, you continue to get that thing going. And I want to make sure that I hit one of the other questions where someone asked a question about, well, what happens if you want to invest? You the best thing that I can only tell you about people you want to invest in is you of course there are opportunities with money. You should look at things like return and the potential return and how much their margin is, and all of the financial concerns you should always have. Very cost accounting, very managerial accounting. You should know all those things. But the thing that makes everything very important is how good the founder is. It does not matter how profitable the idea is if your founder is trash. A business will not run with a bad founder. Ask the Houston Texans how that's going. I'm just saying, like, you cannot run a good business with bad leadership. And those are the businesses that I would recommend you to invest in. Again, it's not professional recommendation, but just telling you, business ain't good if the leader's not good.
I was typing a response to the person who asked about investing. And what I mentioned was, for just kind of for the general investor, Nextseed, like I said, which is based here in Houston, is a great place to invest, even as little as $100 in different businesses. It outlines the different benefits. That's a nice place to start. If you are a high net worth or a high income individual and you are making somewhere in the order of $200,000, that allows you to potentially become an accredited investor, which means you'll be able to participate in angel investments. So you have groups like, I put Thai Houston, which is traditionally South Asian entrepreneurs, but it's open to everyone. They actually have their own angel investing community. And then you also have groups like the Houston Angel Network. I say that as I expect much of this audience to be people of color. And so I want you to be wary and think about that as you are looking at some of these spaces. But we do have groups nationally that are doing angel investing work. Pipeline Angels is a group. You have angel investing networks all over the country. Some of that work is happening here in Houston. That is also a good place to go through some of these accelerators and incubators to talk to them about where, and of course, Philip, Diversity Fund and the Business Angel Minority Association is a great place as well. We're at the last few minutes, and so I want to give everybody just a quick moment to close out and offer any kind of closing remarks. Shanette, how about you start us off?
Oh, I'm over here writing down all these angels. All these angels, that really, I did not know. So you're always learning, always learning. I would say that, we come from a long line of people who are innovators, creators, people who have made a way out of no way. So I don't believe that there's one thing on this earth that we cannot do. So whatever it is that you think you want to do, you've been thinking about it, just know that the creator gave you that thought for a reason. It's something that you are supposed to bring forward. Rahel had Climb a Guard. Let me tell you, I would have never thought of that, right? But Rahel did. And I'm like, I need to get one of those things because it's flooding in Houston all the time. But that was given to her because that is her thing to do. Philip talked about he was given money because of his purpose, and people gave to him because they know his purpose. In this entrepreneurship space, it's about, what do you know to be true for yourself, right? I know the Africa on my back and taking brilliant Black boys to Ghana is what I'm supposed to do, right? From being a teenage mother to having two brilliant Black boys to going through this whole pipeline where my son is now 18 and preparing him for college, right? Like those are things that I know to be true. And I know how it changed his life. So I can only imagine what it will do for other people. Find something that you would do for free. Find something that when you go to bed at night, it keeps you up. You can't sleep because you're thinking about this thing. I'm sure that, all of us on this panel can tell you that, like, yo, Rahel said, like, she got a million ideas now. She has a million ideas now. And it's because she was able to move on the one idea that now she has a million of them. You have to start somewhere. And just know that you have you have so many people who are ready to back you, who will buy from you just on the strength. You all know we have the whole Buy Black movement right now. Like people are willing to invest, people are willing to provide advice, people want to see you win. And as long as you keep that at the forefront, like there are people who want to see me win, there's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing.
Thank you. Let's go to Doug to quickly give your closing remarks.
The best thing that I can tell you is that, like, every one of you who's on this call who has a business idea, or if you don't have a business idea, or you know somebody who has a business idea, I love you all. And these are the people we need to continue to make things run. I talk to amazing entrepreneurs like this every single day, and all we talk about is how we can make life better. Life cannot get better without people like you who are going to be starting the next best small businesses, startups, ideas. If you're not going to give us the best ideas, you better be working with people like Shanette and Rahel, who have the greatest things coming. Like there is this power in community, in the things you can be interested in community, where we are about to build so many amazing things. And that's what makes everything so good. When I wake up in the morning, I get 90% of our businesses are Black, and I get to help as many Black people as I possibly can every single day. And that's even before I kiss my son sometimes during the day. And that is the most beautiful thing. And so the biggest thing I can tell y'all is, if I know right now with as many things that are crazy, if you have a really cool idea, don't let it hang. Don't quit, and go attack, because you could be the next Shanette, you could be the next Rahel, you could be the next Philip Yates, but it would require you to take that chance. Go ahead and do it. And businesses like mine at Deck Launch, we'll be there for you. And there's other resources too, but we're here for you. Go ahead and shoot your shot.
Rahel?
Shanette and Dr. Douglas said a lot of, resonated pretty much to what I was going to say. And that is that, I talked about earlier about like my limited mindset. And I think like a lot of us, we are our own barriers to being able to evolve and grow and really give ourselves a chance to live this one life that we have in a way that pulls us. I mean, just like Shanette said, we are generations of creators, because before we had these universities, we were building, like we were creating, and it's in our genes, and everyone has a unique DNA. So we all have our own value to bring to this earth that we're sharing. And at the same time, you may not need to be a leader in a business, but you could join one that you feel like compelled to be part of that mission, because it takes a village, And so at the end of the day, like, don't allow, if people around you, or if you're telling yourself like, I'm not enough, or or people around you saying, why would you think you could do this because you don't have the type of background? That's a limited mindset. Do not adopt that mindset, because I'm constantly growing, like Sanette was saying, like, I didn't know about these, angel investors, because we're constantly open to learning and growing. And we are a product of that. We're a product of being lifetime students and being curious and excited and not thinking of missteps or even loss of investment as a true failure. It's not. It's a lesson, because we have many years in front of us to make that back. I've already, I've lost money, made money, and it's just a game of me always giving myself a chance to grow and develop, and that in itself is so rewarding. So, I mean, I really, speak to everyone who is interested in exploring entrepreneurship. Go ahead and do it. And you don't have to quit your job right away. Like, you could do it any way that fits you. I honestly am working again as a contractor, as an engineer, because I did my part bringing in a product to market. And now I'm here working because I decided that I still want to bootstrap as much as I can before I'm able to feel comfortable to bring in investments. So that's my choice. It's your business, your choice, or be a part of a business that you feel compelled, like I said, to bring that mission, and you're still of value. You do not have to be the figurehead to be a source of value add. So just, don't say no to yourself just because you feel unworthy or unqualified or inexperienced. Like, it's just be a lifetime student like all of us, and you'll eventually, succeed things you never think that you could have succeeded in doing. So that's just my 2 cents.
And I was supposed to kind of get to this quicker, but because we want to give Namsi some time to kind of close out. So Philip, if you can quickly go through your closing remarks, and then we'll let Namsi speak.
Wait, everybody else gets to say a speech, and you're gonna rush me? No, I will.
Wrap it up, Philip. Wrap it up.
I'll keep it brief. There's a saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's really what we're here to tell you, that you have a community that's willing to back you up. I said a remark earlier, and I want to add context to it, that I never had to go through an incubator accelerator. Well, the reason is because I spent years at a community where I watched people like Jason come there and he shared his information, or you work to Sanette or Rahel, and you learn from different people. I learned from other leaders. And I'm saying you have everything in your community that you need to bring it forward. And what I'm tired of seeing, and the reason why I'm still on this journey, is because I'm tired of people taking their ideas to the grave. Those days are over. You have the resources, you have the opportunity. I heard somebody keep chatting about you just using your God's gift ability. It's your time to own it and profit off of it, now allow somebody else, and the resources are here, and I'm a resource for you. So again, thank you, Jason, thank you, Kechi, thank you, Namik, for this opportunity. It's been great, guys.
All right, I'll pass over to Nkechi and Ms. Koyejo.
Oh my goodness, where do I start? So I don't know if you guys can see my notes. You probably can't see it, but it's like, oh my gosh, so much information. And I hope for those of you who are attending, I hope that you've been overwhelmed with the ton of resources that these amazing individuals have shared with us so freely. I saw someone posted something about, I think one of these incubators, you have to pay to be a member. I mean, this is free information. Thank you guys. Thank you. I'm blown away. Thank you so much. For those of you who would want more information, maybe you didn't catch a lot of the information that was saved in the chat. Jason mentioned earlier that you can save the chat. Jason, I've never done this, so how do they save? Do they right click on something?
Yeah, so I think Uche actually mentioned in the chat how to, so put instructions, but if you click those 3 dots next to the chat and then just click save chat, it'll save on your computer and the folder will open.
All right, awesome. And also we are recording this and we will have it available on our YouTube page. So please check out our social media. Our handle is @NAMCI-Houston. I think Uche will post that. Check out our website to get to know more about NAMCI and what we do in the community. We like to do things like this because we think that, just like Philip said, if you want to go fast, you go slow. You go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And that's really what we're about. So thank you guys for all the time to this. We will be sending out emails to thank you, and we would also include our email address. If you have follow-up questions, please reach out to any of these individuals. Go to our social media. We've tagged them on our posts. I think you've gathered that from this session that they're very willing to answer any questions that you have. And hopefully we will be building a very strong Black business community in Houston, and it will be an opportunity for us to thrive and do so much, much better than we are right now. So thank you guys so much. Have a great evening. And until the next event, continue to build those dreams. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Right.